Well, howdy ho there, folks. How are we doing today? Hopefully, you're all doing absolutely peachy keen fantastic, and you're all full of good vibes for today. We're in another episode of the Elden Ring spirituality playthrough, and today I want to talk a little bit about right effort. And I saw that Doug's Dharma had a video out on right effort, and Doug's Dharma, if you don't know, he's a guy who really takes things from the approach of early Buddhism more than anything else. And he had this talk about right effort. And I was like, oh, do I want to put out a video like that on the same day? I mean, well, not same day, but same-ish week. And then I was like, yes. And then I will put it in the comments down below, so you can take out a video that has similar subject matter. But obviously, since he's approaching it from a Buddhist standpoint, I'm approaching things from a much more devotional standpoint. Things are going to differ a little bit, but I do think it's good to have multiple perspectives. So, maybe go check that out. Anyway, so today I want to talk about right effort. Specifically, I wanted to talk about right effort because I was thinking about the idea of people changing and things like that. And right effort, is mostly effort on like keeping the Dharma and keeping the path going, things like that. If you're looking at specifically through the lens of Buddhism, but I wanted to look at it through a slightly broader lens and in, a lens that is a little bit different. To me, right effort also includes the idea of changing and where to put effort, not just the effort on the path, although effort on the path is the most important thing, and continuing your spiritual practice is the most important thing. But effort in general is often something that we tend to waste because we have this tendency to think about things in the wrong light, and then we get attached to the wrong things, and we put a lot of effort into those things instead of something that's, more important or better for us. What we end up doing is like, oh, well, I want to change, so I'm going to put all this effort into this. And, rather than making sure that we're doing the right effort to make sure that we're doing the thing the right way and we have the right intention, a lot of times we tend to do this thing where we just sort of run forward and, we put all of our effort into something new, and then, it fails because we didn't make sure that we knew why we were doing it and made sure that the thing that we're putting effort in was, worthwhile. Right effort is not just, whether or not you put effort into something, but it's also the amount of effort and what kind of effort you put into something. For instance, I've known plenty of folks who would say that I'm going to get fit, and then they just immediately dive headfirst into that effort, and then they don't even really think about it from like a larger perspective. They tend to think about it as like, okay, well, this is the effort that I'm going to put in. This is like my New Year's resolutions. This is what I'm going to do, and all that kind of fun stuff. But ultimately, what we really need to make sure when we're doing right effort is that we're doing effort to a goal that makes sense. We need to make sure that okay. Let's say that we want to put more effort into our spiritual practice. Well, we need to make sure that the spiritual practices we're doing are actually helping us and are things that will, make a difference, and things that we're willing to put time into. So if we just sit there and we're just like, well, I'm going to put all this effort into spiritual practice, like, okay, what kind of spiritual practice? It's like, well, I'm going to go to the temple every day, and I'm going to, pray every day, and all this. It's like, okay, well, some of those things are very good, and I definitely recommend praying every day, I think. However, there's also plenty of circumstances in which if one is simply praying every day, if they're just kind of doing it like mechanically and they're not doing it with the right amount of love, and if they're not doing it with like the goal of getting closer to God in mind, they're just like, no, I'm just going to pray every day. That's clearly not the same kind of thing as if you have that goal in mind of like getting closer to God, of like, I'm going to chant my mantra every day, and I'm going to repeat the mantra so that I can get closer to God, so that I can feel God's presence in every day. If we meditate and we're only meditating because we want to have specifically a meditative experience, that's not right effort. That's not doing things for the proper reason. That's simply doing things, without necessarily having the proper reason to do them. We need to make sure that if we're trying to keep our practice going, or if we're trying to make sure that things are going a certain way, that we're doing them for the right reasons. Of course, that all connects also to right intention. And then on top of that, we need to make sure that when we're doing effort that does not harm us, that doesn't, make things worse for us. We need to make sure that as we're going through and attempting to, get something accomplished, that we're doing it in a way where we're still going to feel good and we're still going to have, the energy required to keep up our practice. When you're doing right effort, for instance, you need to make sure that it's something that you can continue to build up on, not something that where you're going to get one really big burst and it's like, okay, I meditated every day for like 2 hours every day, and then I was praying for all this time and I was doing all this different stuff, but then, that's not sustainable. You jump deep in and then immediately you're like, okay, I can't do this anymore. You need more of a break and things like that. But this is part of the reason why you will occasionally, excuse me, you'll occasionally need to re-examine your effort and figure out, A, what you're putting effort into, and B, is it healthy effort? Like sometimes you have goals that like you really want to accomplish in a short frame of time, but sometimes it's just not healthy to take a goal and shove it into a smaller box and be like, no, it has to be accomplished by now. It's like, no. Sometimes goals take a while. But there's also the flip side of this coin where it's like, okay, maybe you want something, maybe you're vaguely interested in increasing spirituality. And, I would personally say that, even like 10 minutes of meditation a day, if you can keep that up, is great. But ultimately, if you just stay at that 10 minutes and you find that you're not actually putting the effort in to get better and you just stay at that level forever, that also doesn't really help you. You want to be able to slowly escalate and do things the right way. If you want to learn a new skill, yeah, you probably shouldn't spend literally all of your time trying to learn that new skill unless it's something you can do and still, survive and live a healthy life. But at the same time, you also don't want to just be like, okay, now I'm just going to give up completely, or like I'm going to do the bare minimum. Like, if you really want to learn and grow, sometimes it does take effort. It's just that you need to make sure that effort you're putting is not harming you. There's also another thing, and this is part of the reason that right intention can be so important, is you need to make sure that the thing that you're trying to go after, the thing that you find that your goal is about, is something that you actually want. It is not something that someone else has imposed on you. It is not something that somebody else has like said that, oh, you should probably do this, and then like you want to. It's like, okay, well, someone tells you in your life that you need to find a better paying job or something like that. It's like that can be a good thing in and of itself. However, if you don't really want it and you're comfortable where you are, sometimes it's a good idea to, stay where you're at. Or, maybe someone's like, you should increase the amount of like cardio you're doing each week. But if like you're comfortable where you are and it's giving you what you want to get, you don't necessarily need to continue to push yourself all the time. Doing a lot of fitness things for some reason in this example, but it's fine. Or it's like you need to make sure that the reason you're doing something is something that you want to do and something that will increase your spiritual life and help you out, not something that's to please others. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with being in service. Of course, it's a good thing to service others and to help others and to do things so that others can have a good life and stuff like that. It's not necessarily something that you have to do, that you're required to do, but it can help out a lot. But at the same time, you still need to make sure that ultimately like you're not harming yourself doing these things. And because there's a lot of things out there that if you think about it, it's like, well, that would probably be in some sort of generic sense a better way to go about things. Or it's like, yeah, it might be better if you obtain this skill or that skill. It might be better if you were doing the things that you're supposed to do. But sometimes you do need to ask yourself, like, why am I supposed to do this thing? What am I gaining from doing this thing? Stuff like that. Sometimes you have to be willing to question and make sure that if you are putting in that effort, that you're doing it properly and that you're doing it for the right reasons, and that the amount of effort you're putting in is healthy and is something that is sustainable. That's like some of the really big ones. Another thing that's overall pretty important is to make sure that when you're looking at your practice, that you're doing things. If you have a guru, it's good to listen to your guru and ask, like, what should I be putting effort into and stuff like that, and making sure that you're doing it with like the proper understanding and feeling. Like, you know, so Soderbrand Nanda has talked about this before, where like if you do the mechanical spiritual practices and they remain mechanical and they stay mechanical, you probably need to put more love into your practice and more devotion into your practice, because you know any practice that you do on a regular basis without love and like the sincere desire, especially the sincere desire to get to know God, is not really going to serve you as well as if you simply um, did the practices less often. Like you want to be able to serve to do these practices, but you specifically want to do these practices with love in your heart and understanding that, you know, like that sincere devotion will really carry you through if you're willing to put the time and the effort into doing it. That's like the really big part. That's like the really important part to all of this, is that you have to be willing to go through and do these practices with an understanding that some of them may also take a while. So another part of right effort is making sure that you can continue your practice. So you're doing all these different things, and of course, this all also coincides with right intention. You need to make sure that you're doing these things for the right reason, and you're not just doing these things just willy-nilly just cause, or just because you don't know what else to do. And you know, it's sort of like when you like read scripture or when you go through meditation retreats and things like that. Sometimes you have to stop and ask yourself, what am I gaining out of this? And then on top of that, you need to figure out where you are and what exactly it is that you're after. Um, I think that this is also a good thing to do. That sometimes you'll realize that you're putting too much effort in. If you're at a job, for instance, and you're just doing too much, and like basically you're doing the workload of multiple other people, and it's not helping you, and it's not even necessarily helping the company, sometimes you have to take a step back, right? Well, you know, that's the same thing with all these spiritual practices and all these other things. If you're just sitting there and meditating for like 8 hours a day and getting nothing else done, but not also not, you know, going further in your practice and not, or not being able to figure out why things aren't going further, sometimes it's also a good idea to understand that right effort does include re-examining the effort, the thing that you yourself are doing and why you're doing it, but also to take a step back from that and being able to look at, okay, so if this isn't helping me in its current state, what exactly do I have to do to get it to help? And what exactly do I have to do to get it to, you know, be better and to really increase my potential, increase my connection to God, and increase my happiness? Because, you know, even if you're not like really specifically into the spiritual stuff, you know, you can examine things and see if it's worth effort putting into, because will it increase your happiness? Will it make you feel better? Will it make you feel more fulfilled and things like that? That's stuff that you have to occasionally at least ask yourself and really examine. Okie dokie, artichoke. Well, that's just some of the stuff I wanted to talk about today and some of the stuff I've been thinking about. And yeah, I'm going to put that Doug's Dharma video down in the description below, so you guys should check it out. Obviously, he has a different perspective in a lot of ways. It's much more focused on early Buddhism, but I still think it's a great video to check out. Anyway, thank you all for stopping by, and I love you. God loves you. Bye. Love you. Bye.